Teachers of Reddit, what is the most delusional thing you've seen a parent do? They really aren't. For intelligent people, there's actually nothing in the Christian faith. Yeah, okay, I'm a Christian myself. Downvote me to hell if you want to. That says that evolution did not exist. In fact, most of the science developments that are perceived to be anti-Christian are, in fact, not. Another example is the age of the universe. There is also nothing in the Bible concerning the age of the universe. Most Christians don't actually condemn the majority of science advances. It's just that the idiots who do tend to be the loudest point at it. I've had a lot of feedback about the whole 7 days thing in Genesis. And you're right. That would throw a wrench into the whole thing. If by 7 days, the Bible actually meant 7 days. Which it doesn't. This is unverified, but I learned that the word day used in the Genesis chapter did not actually mean day. In fact, in the original Hebrew Bible, from what I heard, again unverified, the word for day was not actually used. A word meaning an unspecified amount of time was used. When it was translated to English and other languages, they found there wasn't really a way to translate that efficiently, so they used the word day. Day in the Bible could mean anywhere from a day to a trillion years. And the paths in the Bible follow the same path as science in the creation of the universe. The universe was created with the sun in the first day, which could have been 6 billion years. Water was created as the lava cooled, then dry ground appeared, then we had an atmosphere, then animals, then humans, all developing on different days. The endpoint TLDR science, contrary to popular belief, actually does not interfere with Christian faith at all, but tends to be perceived that way because idiots. I hate to be a not me, but my friend is a 6th grade teacher. The way her middle school works is that she is in charge of a class of about 25 kids. She teaches them a few subjects, I know math, science, reading/spelling, and then switches with her partner teacher to teach his kids the same subjects while he does social studies and whatever other subjects there are with her class. Not too long ago, kids in her class began to complain that things were missing from their desks. They were able to keep the things they didn't need for their lessons in the other room and their desks. Whole lunches turned up missing, all in the vicinity of this one boy. Her partner eventually caught him with something that was reported missing, and the principal made him empty his pockets. He was stealing everything. They were lenient with him, only sternly warning him not to do it any longer. The next time, they called the school security officer in to speak with him and sent a note home to his parents. The third time, they gave him ice and called his parents for a conference. His dad apparently flipped out on the phone, saying that his son did nothing wrong and that he knew what they were doing. Turns out, the boy was telling his parents that his teachers were planting the stolen items on him to get him in trouble, and his parents believed him. My poor friend is so frustrated, even though he's not technically in her class, and has been trying to get him and his parents to speak with a social worker, but it's been to no avail. I'm not a teacher, but I have got to share the type of character that my friend's mom is. She is the worst human being I've ever had the displeasure to meet. She is rude, demanding, controlling, and borderline abusive to her family. We'll call her Psycho Mom. Background knowledge: a door does not open in my friend's house without an announcement going off over the loudspeaker and a notification going to Psycho Mom's phone. There are cameras in and around the house. Psycho Mom can access anything and everything on my friend's phone before even he has access to it. My friend's phone is tracked, and his car is tracked. My friend is an Eagle Scout, is a distinguished honors student, is in the top 20 of a 600 student class, is a leader in both of his chorus classes, has gotten lead parts in the past 3 plays, and has honestly never done anything worth making his mom this suspicious of him. My friend's girlfriend moved here from the UK a few years ago. In Psycho Mom's words, that hoe's only dating you so that she can get pregnant and get a green card. She volunteered at our school's post-prom event. Between prom and post-prom, our group was all changing at one of our friends' houses. On the way to post-prom, they got stuck on a red light. Because he and his girlfriend showed up literally 2 minutes later than the rest of the group, he lost his car for a few days and is grounded. A few of us guys crashed over at a friend's house a few weeks ago. This house was down the street from British girlfriend, so Psycho Mom is already getting worked up about it. Make sure your phone is charged. If you don't answer, when I call there will be hell to pay. Wake up at 4 in the morning to his phone ringing. She's been trying to reach him for 2 hours straight with calls and texts saying things like you better not be over at that hoe's house. I hope you enjoyed spending the night at a friend's house, because it is never happening again, and come home right now, or I will burst into that house and get you, and it will be very embarrassing for you. 4. My friend's entire life he's had a long, blonde, curly-ish, past the shoulders kind of haircut. He's always hated it and always has wanted a bus, but psycho mom will not allow it for some reason. One day after school, he leaves his phone at school to avoid being tracked and goes with a friend to get his haircut for a theater production that's based in the 1950s, where his hairstyle wouldn't have worked. He's grounded for a week, which isn't even the worst of it. Psycho mom starts texting British girlfriend to try and convince her to tell him how much she absolutely hates his haircut because he might listen to his girlfriend. Psycho mom posts all over social media and tells anybody who will listen for the next few weeks how ashamed she is of her kid and how she can't even look at him with his terrible haircut. It's late and I'm running on little sleep. If people want more stories, I'll add some in the morning. Edit. Due to popular demand, more background knowledge. My friend is a junior in high school. He has one younger brother, an older sister, about 30ish. She has a kid that is practically being raised by psycho mom, and she visits a lot, and an older brother. I've never met him before. I'm pretty sure he's cut off all relations with psycho mom. His parents are together. Psycho mom isn't very smart by herself, and so it's her husband that sets up all this stuff. He was literally a bodybuilder studying to be a brain surgeon. I mean, before psycho mom made him stop because they were both bad habits. Now he works on computers in his own startup company. He's done almost everything in life. The only thing that my friend has against him is that he's a pushover and that he stayed with a person like that for so long. Believe it or not, my friend is the favorite child. As far as I know though, there has been no physical abuse whatsoever. However, she has threatened to hurt herself in the past. I just can't recall the specific situation. One night, psycho mom was bullying/abusing younger brother, freshman in high school, but looks younger, by calling him names and basically completely demoralizing him the night before his audition into a show choir class that he'll take for his sophomore year. It was around 11 or 12 at night, I think, when my friend finally stood up to psycho mom, who then turned her abuse to him. This allowed his little brother to get some sleep for his audition, but my friend was grounded for talking back. During a big confrontation with psycho mom, her husband wanted to take her with him to family counseling. She threatened to load child porn onto his computer and call the police. She finally said she'd go, and then didn't show up to counseling a few days later. This was pretty recent, so I don't know how her family reacted a few weeks ago. My friend stopped texting any of us back during the weekend. We were extremely concerned, and we were considering calling the police, since we hadn't heard back from him in days. We decided to text him first though, that we were worried, and were about to call the cops. Almost immediately he has his phone back. We can't get the full story until school the next day though, because his mom will freak out when she sees texts about her. Turns out they got into another argument about British girlfriend who is tearing this family apart. She's a lovely girl and an amazing friend. She's just jealous of the time he spends with her. My friend's finally had it and throws a glass full of water at her. We are pretty sure my friend's dad talked psycho mom out of killing him, not literally, because his parents almost haven't mentioned it. Since point I've got to get up and actually start being productive, but I'll ask my friend to remind me of some other stories/important info. Didn't get to see my friend today, but British girlfriend did remind me of 2 stories. British girlfriend's neighborhood is unfinished, so they decided to go on a walk through an unfinished part of it where there was still construction and such going on. They thought it'd be easier to tell psycho mom that it was a park. They underestimated psycho mom because she gets them and saw they were lying, and my friend's in trouble and all that other stuff. But that's not the best part. That next Sunday, in the parking lot after church, psycho mom decides it's a good time to give her son and British girlfriend the talk. Not only did she talk to two 17-year-olds about the birds and the bees in the parking lot of a church, but she felt it was appropriate to bring it up again when dropping off British girlfriend at her house and engage her mom with the conversation. Never shared the story about how we know psycho mom gets notifications sent to her phone with the doors opening, so here it goes. One day after school, British girlfriend and another friend of ours goes by to just say hi. They knock on the door, and he answers it immediately with, "I'm about to get in trouble, you need to go." Sure enough, a minute or so later psycho mom called and beached him out for having friends over when he was home alone. He explained what actually happened, but she didn't believe him. He was grounded until his parents got home and could check the surveillance footage to see what really happened. Before you read, take note that I have had issues with this particular child and parents before, and that they are among my most hated families to ever have to deal with. The kid is an entitled smug little sheet and my least favorite student ever. We use a third-party system for some extra online homework. It's maybe 20 minutes an assignment, one reading and one math assignment per weeknight. Ungraded. Point. This little sheet in another class started fibbing the assignments. He would click through multiple choice questions and enter gibberish for any short answers. Since we don't grade it, it shows completed, and we don't check the scores often, so he got away with it for about a month. Homework is a practice thing and it's ungraded, but it is accounted for. It's elementary, so it counts as a behavior/citizenship type thing. You can't get the behavior rewards if you don't turn in your homework, for example. We eventually found out because the little fuckhead bragged to his friends and it got around and a student came forward about it. When his teacher found out, they brought it to the vice principal because it's academic dishonesty. It's kind of a big deal to try to cheat around the system at this early of an age, and while it's not something he would be suspended for, it is something that needs to be addressed to make sure the student understands the severity of academic dishonesty and the kind of sheet he'd face for doing something similar when he's older. Slippery slope kind of logic. VP alerts the parents and both parents swoop down on the teacher like it's her fault. Dad is in technology and starts questioning the accuracy of the system. Mom starts claiming it must have been hacked, etc etc. Dad demands that they email Scooper to see if the account has been compromised. Because some enterprising faking 5th grader was able to hack a website. Or because someone actually capable of it took the time to faking hack a grade school homework website and insidiously change all of the little sheethead's non-graded grades to failing. Teacher acquiesces to the request and sends the email. Many laughs and looks of incredulity are shared when this story gets around to other teachers. I had the pleasure of being in the room when this mom came back around. Of course the website had responded with a resounding no, presumably, because seriously, what the fuck? Wasn't a professional response, and it just hadn't come up yet with admin being busy with something or another. But this parent comes in to pick up her sheety little kid from this teacher's 3-day-a-week 2-hour after-school study group that they hold for faking free, just to provide a place for students who otherwise don't have access to computer/school resources or even a quiet place to study. So anyway, she comes in and wants to talk about the situation. Because in front of the cheating little sheet, a couple other parents, another teacher, and several students is the appropriate place to bring up that issue. Not a hey, do you have a moment to schedule a conference, but a have you heard back from the website about the cheating? What point? So my colleague responds with a no, not yet, but soon I hope, because they have some sense of propriety, and the mom starts talking about it anyway. She claims that what it might have been was that they let him do his work on the iPad, and since that's a flat surface, maybe when he put his hand down to type, his wrist rubbed the other buttons, and then that entered answers he wasn't aware of, and then he accidentally turned that in. I had so much trouble keeping my sheet together while these faking lies dripped from her cunty little face. But then, while she says this, the little faking sheethead starts talking as well. But you said for me to do it on the iPad, and you let me do it on the iPad. Actually trying to shift the blame on his mother after she faking lies through her teeth to save him from the consequences of his own cheaty actions. If you want to know what he sounded like, it was a bit like this Harry Potter scene. I understand why a parent would want to take the blame for their kid or lie to get them out of trouble, but it's faking 5th grade. The little fuckwit gets a lunch detention and a few lectures. He should get a suspension to really impress upon him that academic dishonesty is something that gets you failed in high school and expelled from universities. Instead, she is teaching him that he can do whatever the fuck he wants, and it's okay, because mommy and daddy will lie through their faking teeth to save him from the consequences. And it's not as if the parents didn't know this. The VP told them when they were first informed what the punishment would be, a week of lunch detentions and a parent/teacher/student/admin meeting, where they discussed why cheating was wrong. I hate that little cunt. I was working with a young girl who was doing a vocabulary worksheet with fill in the blanks, so no definitions for the words. She, understandably, was unable to answer some of the questions since she didn't know any of the definitions of the words. So I suggested she grab one of the multitude of dictionaries we had on location. She was having none of that. So after a few more minutes of staring at the sheet not doing anything productive, I tell her we are going to get a dictionary and walk her over to the shelf where we kept such things. She rolled her eyes, half-heartedly grabbed one, and stomped back to her seat. I figured now I had done everything in my power to help her short of giving her the answers and thought it was over and done with. Not so. She told her mother about this. Apparently this story warped in her mother's head into you dragged my little angel around the classroom by her neck and forced her to do things she did not want to do. The multiple other teachers and I, who were all witnesses, as well as dozens of other students, tried to explain what had actually happened, but just like her daughter, this woman was having none of it. She threatened to sue all of us and pull her daughter from school and made a point of telling me she was going to do everything in her power to have me fired and never teach again. Then we never heard another thing from her. She never bothered us again, and her daughter still comes into the classroom every week. She just doesn't get taught by me anymore. Parents are weird. Not a teacher, but I went to Raffles Design Institute in Beijing. All the students enrolling are required to be able to speak English. First year they provide Chinese interpreter while supplying English lesson for those whose levels are below average, and second year above, no interpreter. The teachers were 3 Canadians and 1 Scottish. There was this one very weird, very idiot student who couldn't understand even the simplest English, and my frustrated teachers ended up asking me to interpret sometimes. She was really weird, like she would talk to the Christmas tree set up in front of our elevator, or hopping about like rabbits when she thought nobody was looking. One time our class was instructed to create an original design of some kind of a hero complete with details, powers, color scheme, etc. We were in visual art design class, and she drew Detective Conan. When third year came, my teachers called her parents to discuss this issue, because she failed almost every class, but the parents called my teachers every possible name in Chinese, which I translated to them, happen to be nearby. The next day, she dropped out. Few days after, my Chinese classmate told me that that idiot student complained to him that our teachers were idiot, that they couldn't teach, and they couldn't understand one word she spoke, of course, since she only spoke Chinese. Apparently she told this excuse to her parents, who in turn ranted off to my poor teachers. TLDR idiot student who couldn't speak English, but enrolled in an English speaking school told parents that our Canadian/Scottish teachers were idiot and couldn't understand her Chinese. This is not teacher versus parent, but teacher versus teacher. I'm not a teacher, but my mom is a sub. One time, she was subbing a class, and it was a test day. That means everything is supposed to be put away, no extra paper is out, and no technology can be seen. No cell phones are allowed in that class to begin with. Anyways, the tests are passed out. After a while, my mom notices a girl keeps looking down between her thighs, and since she wears glasses, you can see the reflection of the light of the screen on it. My mom walks up and confronts her about it, but she just closes her legs and denies everything, so my mom walks back to the teacher's desk. Soon, she sees it happening again, and this time she catches her in the act of using the phone. She claims she was texting her mom to pick her up, since she was sick, but she didn't seem like it. When my mom told the teacher defended the girl, saying that there was no way that she would do that, since she was a nice girl, and that she ought to mind her business next time. When I found out who it was, I laughed, since that girl is well known for cheating among students, not teachers, and also because, if it was a test, the odds were she was looking up the answers, not texting her mom. The funny thing is, that girl has gotten on that teacher's good side through cheating, so it was hard to shake her good opinion of her. Another funny thing is, that teacher is so anti-cheating that I was shocked that she wouldn't take the time to listen to a sub. Later on, I found out she got a good grade, but the teacher wasn't suspicious at all. My mother works in a preschool. She has run it for 10 years, and in our area it's one of the most highly rated preschools by the English governing body Ofsted. She has worked with kids since I was in school, aged 9. I'm now 23. She's seen kids of all shapes and sizes come and go, with different disorders, behavioral issues, illnesses, mental illnesses, diseases, etc. She knows what she's talking about. So this year she has a kid come to school. He's an only child, the son of two very successful wealthy high achieving career types. The kid is 3 or 4, the parents in their mid-40s. We'll call the kid Richard, his mum Sarah and his dad Brian. Richard is autistic. Nothing has been diagnosed yet, but my mum has seen the signs in plenty of other kids to know an autistic kid when she sees one. It is my mum's responsibility to, if she recognizes an issue in a child, notify the parents and suggest they seek a professional to come in and examine the child so that they get the best help, care and opportunity to deal with the issue early and head on, so that the kid gets a fighting chance. How does my mum know? This is what she told me. These select symptoms copied from NHS website. Frequent repetition of set words and phrases, not being aware of other people's personal space, or being unusually intolerant of people entering their own personal space, little interest in interacting with other people, including children of a similar age, preferring to play alone, rather than asking others to play with them. Avoiding eye contact, playing with toys in a repetitive and unimaginative way, such as lining blocks up in order of size or color, rather than using them to build something, preferring to have a familiar routine, and getting extremely upset if there are changes to their normal routine. This is just the stuff she's told me. When my mum asked the parents in to have a meeting, they became incredibly angry. It is not my mum's place to even say the word autism. She is, I believe, not legally allowed to suggest or diagnose any issues, and so her wording has to be incredibly careful. She will describe the symptoms that she believes signifies that there are some behavioral problems, and she suggests they seek professional medical opinions, and they have the resources to do so. When my mum spoke to Brian and Sarah, they lost it. They refused to believe my mum, saying how dare you make such a claim, and things similar. Their reasoning was as follows. They want Richard to go to a private school, a very prodigious school in the local area. But the fact is that Richard won't pass the entrance exam, will bring down the exam results of the school, and they do not have enough money as parents to bribe the school into letting Richard attend. Sarah says I don't want Richard going to school with a label, as she says she thinks he'll be bullied. Her naivety is unbelievable. Richard will have more trouble going to school undiagnosed as an autistic kid than he will if he attends a special needs school, and the delay in having him diagnosed could potentially set him back even further. The fact is this, Richard will likely never follow in his father's footsteps, nor will he likely be a highly achieving businessman in the corporate world, and this terrifies his parents enough for them to bury their heads in the sand, pretend it's not happening, and accuse of misconduct anyone who tells them that it is happening. So, my mum, being the fantastic head teacher she is, always putting the children first, despite increasing regulations impeding her ability to do her job effectively, she went ahead and got the professionals in anyway. They came in, and sure enough the diagnosis was as my mum suspected. They did everything by the books, and so they are not in any trouble legally, but when my mum presented the parents with the evidence, they lost their shit even more. They said that the paper trail must be destroyed and no further action taken, and if it is not, that they'll report my mum and her preschool to Ofsted, the police, the newspapers, whoever would listen. My mum would say, go ahead, your kid needs help, and you won't listen. We have done everything correctly and legally, but apparently a black mark on Ofsted's books means you'll be under constant scrutiny, and that it becomes painful to deal with them, as opposed to their current amiable relationship. So my mum has to stop. She has to stop fighting for Richard's health and his future. She has to sit back and smile and nod and say yes ma'am, no ma'am, 3 bags full ma'am, and just watch while Richard continues, oblivious to his parents' delusion and his future struggles. She has to stop and say, I cannot save this one, and that is absolutely the hardest thing. Every single kid that comes through her school she feels personally responsible for, and these stupid faking asshole parents have no faking idea the damage they could be doing by just ignoring this, and that is the most delusional thing I've seen a parent do. I'm not a teacher, but I hope this counts. Oh, I got this one so easy. Had a student named Mrak, not his real name, but he couldn't actually spell his name either, who had severe learning disabilities. He was Chinese, and I was his ESL teacher from grades 3 to 5. I'm fluent in Chinese, so I had no problem communicating with him and his mother, but he basically refused from day one to learn English. His mother obviously fretted over this, but she was obviously mentally not all there either, so her proposed solutions were each more outlandish and unrealistic than the last. Her first solution, sent him to school in his pajamas, so that he'd feel more relaxed and comfortable. Actual result, he was apparently so relaxed that he defecated in his pants and then giggling confessed to it, as if he had knowingly and proudly done it on purpose. Next solution, invite me to come over to her house, unpaid, and play with him all weekend long, every weekend, indefinitely, until he learned to like English. Actual result, I have a life outside of my job, so obviously I refused. Final solution, this one was the real kicker. She got him an expensive laptop loaded with ESL software to bring to school. Result, on the first day that he brought it in, his main teacher took it off him, obviously, for a number of very obvious reasons. She was upset and demanded that Mrak be allowed to use it in my class at least. I said that not only was it unfair to the other students, but also that I strongly doubted that it would be of any use. It would only be a distraction to him and the other students, and also I suspected that he'd break it. She didn't listen to my objections and told Mrak to use it anyway. Since he viewed his being in the class at all as totally illegitimate, I had basically zero authority over him anyway, so he basically did whatever he wanted all class anyway, and I usually let him, as long as it wasn't bothering other students. So he takes out his laptop when my class begins, and by now most of the other kids have been in the same ESL class with him for 5 years, so they're used to this kind of crap, so they didn't pay him any mind after 2 minutes, and it was fine. But naturally he got bored of Plants vs Zombies after about 10 minutes and started playing with his water bottle and erasers, which had become his main pastime in my class. And inevitably he emptied the water bottle into the keyboard of his laptop soon after that. I never saw the laptop again, and finally his mother stopped coming to me with these harebrained ideas a few times she bothered to ask my advice about Mrak. I always gave her the same answer: if she's really dead set on him learning English, the classroom environment is a bust for a kid like him. He needed a private one-on-one tutor/nurse to look after him and try to teach him. He was totally unsuited for a normal classroom environment. And in all the 5 years of study at our school, he barely even learned how to answer questions like "What's your name?" or "How are you today?" My sister-in-law is a grade 3 French immersion teacher. She has one student who moved to Canada last year and was put into the grade level for his age, even though he was behind where he should have been due to the little education he had received previously, as well as knowing little English. Suffice to say, his parents were told that he might excel more with the English class vs trying to learn both English and French while still being behind his grade's knowledge level. His parents remained adamant that they wanted him in the French immersion program, regardless. One day he came to school and thanked my sister-in-law, Madam S, for the books she had bought him. She was confused. She hadn't purchased any books specifically for the little boy. He then informed her that his dad had told him Madam S had given him $100 for the boy to spend on French books. Shocked and confused, she called the boy's parents in for a meeting. The boy's father admitted right away to telling his son this story in hopes that it would encourage him to catch up in class. He had no concept of how wrong it was for him to do this. Even after explaining it, he still thought there was nothing wrong with what he had done. And in the meantime the little boy had told a bunch of his classmates that Madam S had given him $100. The father refused to tell the boy the truth, insisting it would help him. So she had to inform the boy that it wasn't true and that his parents had purchased books for him, not her. I can't imagine how frustrating it is to be a teacher sometimes. Guitar teacher here. Friend of my mother brings her boy in. He wants to play in the high school jazz band, and I'm told he just picked up guitar the week before. While I admire his ambition, I knew the school he was attending had a very prestigious music program, and it was highly unlikely he would make it in. I tell her this, but she seems unfazed. So we go through a few weeks and I learn he's a quiet kid, but it's kind of obvious that he's not all that into playing since we first started. I only charge $20 an hour because I know he's going to wind up quitting playing after a disappointment like not making the band. After trying my damnedest to get him ready for the tryout, which was way above his level, he goes into audition and gets turned down. Now the problems start here. I'm waiting on them to show up for his next lesson. They don't. No call or response when I call them. After 30 minutes I pack my stuff up and head home. 2 days later I get a phone call from the band director at the school he attended. The conversation goes like this. Hey, is this Honeyberger 919? Yes. Who is this? I'm obvious fucker named the band director at Evenfucker High School. Was slightly less fake your student. Yeah. I didn't see him this week though. I guess tryouts didn't go well. Laughs. You could say that. You could also say that his mother absolutely flipped out and kicked a few music stands around the room. No way. You're faking with me right now, right? I wish I was. She gave me your business card saying I should ask you why her son needs to be in my band, but I think I'm going to just use it to tell you to be ready for her. Thanks for the heads up. I never heard from her again. Her son quit playing guitar as far as I could tell from his Facebook updates. I sent him a message one time telling him to just send me a message with a code word if I ever need to call the police for him. TLDR. Since her son didn't make the band, she's gonna age out on an innocent music stand. I taught 9th grade. Where do I start? There was this one girl, 14, who got pregnant mid-year. Apparently she'd been pregnant twice in 8th grade as well, but had abortions. Anyway, mom came in while I was working office duty one day. She sat in the office and chatted with the lady beside her about the pregnancy and shared that she was really ecstatic about becoming a grandma at only age 42. Turns out my student has a sister aged 28 as well. Currently I volunteer in my 8-year-old son's classroom. There's this little darling in the room that we were blessed with in kindergarten as well. He is an obnoxious little sheet. He has 2 college-aged siblings and apparently goes home and plays Call of Duty and GTA and stuff with them. One day he told me that Doctor Who and the Lego Wii/PlayStation games were stupid and for babies because they are rated PG/E and that he only watches stuff that's rated R or plays T or M games. Kid can't read, maybe 1st grade level. He checks out Harry Potter and other tomes from the library. He's also going to be the class bully in another year or 2. He plays games where he excludes the kids he doesn't like from his games and says stuff like no one invited you. Mom is delusional. She thinks he has ADHD like the older brothers and that the problem is that the new out of college teacher is having problems with him because she can't control her class, not that her precious snowflake is growing into a brat. I have to wonder what she thought about the K teacher who has lots of experience. Also, she's a room parent. Think she's done jack this year? Yep, you guessed right.